Then I kind of hear, "You're strangling me, you're strangling me." And I'm just kind of like, hyper spidey sense, trying to like hear the next clue. And then I hear a bottle pop, not a glass bottle, like a 2-liter bottle being hit off someone's head. And then I hear somebody fall down the stairs and boom, 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 crash into the door. And then I hear like mumbles, and I know it's my dad. And
welcome to Nurses Uncorked, where we pop the cork on everything in healthcare.
I'm your host, Nurse Jessica Seitz.
And I'm Nurse Erica.
On Nurses Uncorked, you get real, unfiltered facts and plenty of laughs.
Please follow us wherever you listen to podcasts, and don't forget to rate, review, and download.
Become a member of our winery, where you get early access to the podcast, bonus episodes, ad-free content, and much more.
Now sit back, relax, and pour yourself a glass
as we uncork the truth in nursing.
Jessica and I are getting ready for when she comes out to Vegas. We have been remotely playing Nurses Against Insanity, one of our new sponsors, and we thought we would share a couple of the questions and answers with you guys. They are hilarious. I became a nurse because I was inspired by Blink.
Camel toe.
Camel toe. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, nothing makes you want to become a nurse more than camel toe. That's all I gotta say.
There you go. All right, ask me one more question.
Okay, let's see. Okay. If I were named nursing director, I would immediately hire a supervisor of...
I don't know. I think it's a hot tie between toxic masculinity and Baby Yoda.
I guess we need a supervisor of Baby Yoda. He's so freaking cute. Everybody needs one of those. If you'd like to play this game that plays off of another card game that is similarly named, you can go to vetsagainstinsanity.myshopify.com, and don't forget to use code UNCORKED for 30% off your total game purchase.
Welcome back to Nurses Uncorked, the podcast. We are back for the second part, week 2, of our interview with Jake Haendel, the only survivor of locked-in syndrome. If you haven't watched the last episode, please go back and give that a listen. But for those that haven't, we are just going to briefly reintroduce Jake and tell you about this syndrome. So I'm going to let Jessica take it away.
Yeah, Jake Haendel, also known as the Miracle Man, is the only documented person to survive stage 4 locked-in syndrome. While he couldn't move, speak, or breathe on his own, Jake remained fully conscious and retained all feeling in his body. Doctors and nurses thought he was comatose and unaware of what was taking place around him. Jake's experience has fascinated Boston's top medical doctors, who still continue to study his case to better understand the disease. For the last 4 years, Jake has dedicated himself to his recovery while prioritizing helping others along the way. After finally leaving the hospital in 2020, he was met with a series of accessibility challenges. He quickly realized that accessible doesn't always mean truly accessible, and saw an opportunity to improve the lives of millions navigating similar obstacles. Jake is the co-creator of an amazing new podcast called Blink, the Jake Haendel story, and the inspiration behind Ahoi, a startup company dedicated to making the world more accessible. Ahoi's app helps users find locations that best fit their accessibility needs, whatever they may be. As the only survivor of locked-in syndrome, Jake has become an advocate, motivational speaker, and writer. And we're going to let Erica go into now a brief overview of what locked-in syndrome is.
Yeah, because this is something I really was not familiar with. So I did a little research. Acute toxic progressive leukoencephalopathy, ATPL, also known as locked-in syndrome, is a rare neurological condition that attacks the white matter of the brain, affecting only about 1 to 2 people per 100,000, sometimes referred to as a pseudo-coma, It has been described as your body becoming a prison. It is characterized by near total body paralysis of voluntary muscles while preserving consciousness. It's caused by damage to the brainstem, which can result from things like a stroke, demyelination, tumors pressing against the pons or the brainstem, a TBI, infections, or even a medication overdose. The prognosis varies depending on the underlying cause and severity of the damage. There are 3 different types of locked-in syndrome: classic form, incomplete form, and total form, with varying grades. Some patients may regain partial mobility or communication skills, while others may remain permanently locked in. There is no cure. Treatments are aimed at supportive therapy.
And I would, again, highly encourage, please go watch the first one, because you will hear a lot of the backstory as to where and how Jake got to this point. While you can still enjoy this podcast without listening to the first part, it's going to make a lot more sense, and you're going to get to know Jake a lot better. So, as Erica was going to say, with that, let's get into part 2. I love that Erica gave me this question, but eventually this life-saving physician, during rounds one morning, I don't remember his name, but you can tell us if you want, saw you slightly move. You didn't even know that you moved, but he saw some movement. And that was the beginning of the end of you being locked in. What do you remember about that? Tell us that story.
Oh, man, I just got goosebumps. I remember everything. This was the moment. Pivotal moment is like an understatement, because if this never happened, if he wasn't in the room, I don't know if we'd be here having a conversation. I might still be stuck. Yeah, so this is like after hospice. I timed out of hospice.
They failed hospice, Jake.
I mean,
are you a hospice dropout, Jake?
Yeah. Pretty much. I mean, I didn't even know there was such a thing. It's like you have 6 months, and then insurance is like, we're not paying for someone to supposedly die like forever. So time out of hospice, I'm put in this, like, they didn't really know what to do with me. I remember overhearing, well, he's not dying, he's not getting better. We're gonna admit him to this complex medical internal medicine unit, and we're gonna get him the care he needs, and we just don't know. So it felt like, I want to say, a month or two of reliving the same day. That's when my podcast came out on Groundhog's Day.
I was just gonna say Groundhog's Day.
Yeah, it was reliving the same day, and the complex care team, they probably do this all hospital settings, but big team of doctors and folks doing rounds. And this doctor, who noticed, Dr. Stephen Levinson, now retired, my understanding of him was he was like the Dr. House of MGH. He invented complex care for MGH, and their whole thing was, we take care of the 1% of the sickest and rare. And that was like his thing. So I had never seen him. I knew his voice. I knew he was kind of in charge of my care. And one day on rounds, he's like, hey, do you guys see that? He's moving something. And, to your point, I have no idea what I moved, but I'm hearing everything, and I'm like, oh my God. This is
my chance. This is it.
This opportunity, this is my chance. Do that again. I'm just tensing on my body,
willing it. Yeah.
And the other doctors, people in rounds, are like, no, it's involuntary. It's impossible. Look, I got his brain scan right here. And he goes, hey, I don't know if you can hear me, but if you can, do that again. And then I'm like, oh my God, he's talking to me, right? So I'm like, you have to do something. I'm like
Do
trying to
something.
bench press this impossible weight, you know? And as I'm saying to myself, shit, I can't do it. Like, I'm about to cry. I hear, wow, he's actually doing it. He's moving. And thankfully, next thing I heard him say is, I want somebody who specializes. I think he said, I want the best too. I want the best person we got, specializes in nonverbal augmentative speech therapy, to come in and teach him how to blink. And that's what happened. It felt like the next day or maybe same day, hard to say, somebody came in and again they put their face over my bed so I could kind of see them. Hey Jake, I'm Jen. I'm here to teach you how to blink. And she said this was so much like, she said it in a way where it wasn't like a question, like, you know, she came in so positive and like, this is what I'm here for, this is what we're doing. And you know, like, I felt as if she fully knew that I was there, and she's like, okay, Jake, I'm here to like teach you how to blink. We're gonna do this. And I just remember being like, somebody sent me an angel to like teach me how to communicate. And that's how it went.
Yeah. So you mentioned that teaching you how to blink again, that took you a couple of weeks, I believe. And then you were able to somewhat communicate by blinking. And then that progressed to a letter board, which is a tool that we use for paralyzed patients. Do you remember, can you tell us what was the first thing that you spelled out with the letter board?
Yeah, it took 10 minutes and a lot of people in the room. And the first thing I spelled out was, I can hear you.
Mic drop.
Yep.
That's amazing.
And I heard about those nurses' sexual experience, though.
That was too many characters from that point. But
what was the response from everyone in the room?
They were kind of like, oh my God. Like, I don't know. I don't think it was like gasping. I don't think anyone like said, oh my God, maybe. But there was definitely some wow. There was also some cross-talk about how, like, there wasn't crosstalk, actually. I could sense shortly after, by the next thing I spelled out, that they were not convinced how cognitively intact I was. Just from that.
What else do they want from you?
That's a great question, but they start immediately talking about next steps in front of me, right? So they're
instead
like,
of to you.
Yeah. Which I was just like happy to be somewhat noticed. I was on a cloud. I was like, oh my God. So they're talking about next steps, and the same doctor noticed me, was like, I want them to go to Spalding. They're the best at nonverbal communication. We need to know what's going on in this guy's head. And there's cross-talk about how I would never qualify because I cannot participate in the 3 hours of mandatory therapy a day, PT, OT, and speech. And I start freaking out because I'm like, I'm thinking the worst. I'm like, they're just going to like warehouse me here? Like, no. Like, we got to, capitalize on this. And I start like freaking out to the point my heart machine's going off. And then this lady, Jen, who taught me the letterboard, is like, calm down. Do you want to say something with the letterboard? Stick on my tongue for yes, and I spell out, I can do 3 hours. And that was the point where
I love
they really were like, oh, wow, this guy's actually tracking our conversations.
Yeah.
Like and then next thing I know, I'm at Spalding.
So you still required around-the-clock care, obviously, and spent 4 years in various hospitals or rehab facilities. or as you like to call nursing homes. Heard you say that before. Did that time feel torturously slow? Like, or were you just thrilled to know that you were waking up?
Combination of both. So, okay, go to Spalding. I'm still in crazy pain. Crazy pain. And they're now like moving me and they're stretching me and they're serial casting me and it hurts so bad, but also I'm in the headspace of like, it's what it takes. Like I'll do anything to get out of here. And I'm also like nonverbal now in a more advanced version of the letterboard, the Mega B. And I'm like able to kind of spit out paragraphs as long as I have essentially a scriber on the other end. And that was like great. But now I'm like communicating complex thoughts, and they're really realizing how intact I still am and how I have all these memories and these feelings that anyone would have. So that felt slow. It felt painful. And then, we're kind of in August in 2018, and I didn't start, I think, like, poured some gasoline on my recovery into, I would say, May of 2019. That's when, like, I started making baby sounds and start becoming paralyzed. And then I just remembered there was a certain point, not that it was like roses or anything, but when I could like show some of my personality, which some people say I could show personality nonverbal. I'm unsure how that works. But when I could start showing my personality and like talking in this broken speech where not like I could do impressions anymore, but like I could like make jokes, and there was excitement, like, because I would see people in these long-term care facilities I would live in that kind of, you grow relationships with these people because I see it every day, and I could see how like cool it was for them to like see this recovery happening, and so there was like excitement, and it did feel slow, but it was also like there were a lot of good times in this like dark time. There are like, you've probably seen some of the videos of me like cracking up,
Trying to feed yourself.
Yeah.
That's one of the funniest ones because you're like, this is so dumb. Like, I'm literally trying to spoon feed myself and it's a hot mess. But you laugh through it.
It was a level of like ridiculousness, I think, that was happening. Like, it was just like, I'm trying to like move this arm and like, why did I pick chocolate pudding? That's a great question. That's a great question. I don't know why. Probably because I was like thinking the old me. I'm like, well, I prefer that over vanilla,
Yeah.
Not like, but it was just the ridiculousness of the spoon hitting my face, and like, there's so much stuff off camera, but I guess it just goes back to what it did feel slow. Lots of exciting things, lots of fun things funny things, but really hard. And
I love how you were able to stay positive though, and you were able to use humor. And maybe for those that started the podcast and could hear me already joking with Jake, I feel like I know his personality from watching his videos. Like with somebody else, would I have hit the ground running like that? Maybe not. But you can tell that he's more of a lighthearted, joking person, and I think he prefers that, right? I would assume, Jake.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, and probably that like using humor, I think, is the best way. What are you going to do? You can't change where you're at, what the situation is. And I think that laughter and just you've got to, right? I mean, what else are you going to do?
Exactly. What else are you going to do? And also, I learned how things can just always be worse. And for the first time in a while, things where I was regaining and things were getting better, and I had cried a lot. I still even cried during these times where you see me laughing. But it's like, what's the alternative? Like, you're going to go through this and cry and get frustrated. And, like, you know, the way we get better and the way we learn is through repetition. And if you're really frustrated, you're not going to want to give yourself the chance at that repetition. So it kind of turned it into like a game, and it was actually funny. And, you know, the alternative is just like, yeah, crying. So, and things were getting better. And even on the way down, you know, it's like you decide the way you want to live your last days, your future, your days going forward, you decide. And, might as well make the most of it, you know. So it was definitely the hardest, roughest situation, but I was trying to, like, you know, not only for my recovery, but I was just like for my well-being, trying to like make the best out of it.
Well, and months before, you were probably thinking I'd give anything to try to spoon feed myself. Huge accomplishment.
There was a big level of that, what you just mentioned, like how far I came from just being stuck and locked in nothingness to like having the opportunity to make sound and connect with people and like get in a wheelchair and like, you know, spoon feed myself chocolate pudding, even though it was a hot mess. But it was a comedy show. I mean,
so at this point today, you're still undergoing physical therapy, and I believe you're learning how to use a cane right now. Do your doctors anticipate a full recovery, a partial recovery? What about your speech? What do they think?
I don't know what they think. All I know is it used to be like, you got 6 months to live. You're not gonna make it till Christmas. You're not gonna make it to the new year. You got hours left. Okay. You're not dying, but you're not getting better. You're always gonna be nonverbal. Not that they put it in those terms. But you know, you're never gonna get out of the hospital. Then I like did all these things. Then it was like, you're never gonna walk. And then I started walking with a walker. And then at that point, they stopped saying never. So, like, I don't know. No, I don't think anyone knows, because I am the only documented case in the world of survival from stage 4 acute toxic progressive leukoencephalopathy. They haven't said anything to me. I do think I will walk with no device one day. I don't know how far I'll walk. Probably need brakes. I don't know if the contractures of my ankles, they're, you know, kind of hate this term, they're functional, I guess, right? But they're not like, you know, I can't flex them. They're kind of like bricks, right? They're just there. But I can walk on them. Like, I don't know if there's any Ironmans in my future.
So what, like when you sit down or when you lay down, your foot goes like back?
No, they just have a very hard stop, right? So like,
okay,
if you were to stretch my ankles, you would just be like, okay, like I can get to like +4 degrees, and that's it. And like,
does it hurt you? Does that hurt when you try to do that?
I have an incredible pain tolerance.
Obviously.
Yeah, because you were in pain during this entire 10-month period, right? unfortunately.
I was in horrific pain. And then, I mean, I'm still in chronic pain, but I deal with it much better than I used to, I suppose, and went through it for so long. But yeah, the entire time, it's definitely gone better, but I'm still in chronic pain. There are things that hurt every day. But no, it doesn't hurt me. You can crank away my ankles. I'm saying, I
Break
guess
away.
crank away. Yeah. I mean, pain is good, I think. At least in recovery, you got to push through it, you know.
Can you drive? This is probably a dumb question. Can you drive yet?
You know,
I mean, I don't
drive
see
a
you.
scooter for long distance. It's kind of a go-kart. I mean, I think I could. I was just asked this yesterday.
You're like, don't give me the keys because nobody. I might try.
I might try. I mean, the other thing is like I don't know if I feel the need to drive anymore. You know, I can Uber.
Yeah.
I can like I don't know, but maybe, you know, I can certainly make some interesting content one day for my social media. Give me the keys. I have a question for you two. Would you guys get in the car with me for my driving test?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah?
I will. Yeah, absolutely, I would.
Erica, would you?
I don't know. I don't know.
You value your life a little more.
I would, but could we be like in a big open parking lot, like a hugely
Right. We're
open
not going to hit
parking lot?
anything.
I don't know. That's up to the state of Massachusetts. They might make me parallel park, you know? It's like,
Oh,
I do think that your outlook is so inspiring. And I would suggest changing one thing. Instead of saying, I think that one day, you need to start saying, I will one day, because that actually does impact.
I was going to say, that's my prediction, is that you are going to, I can already tell just talking to you from your first videos to now, your speech is improved dramatically.
That's true.
Like the speed at which you're speaking, the clarity is, it's crazy. I mean, I recommend everybody watch from the beginning. Don't jump around. Like, go to the beginning and start, you know, if you go to his TikTok. But it's huge. You have to know that, Jake, right? Like, I'm sure you know that.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. It's crazy. And you're totally right what you were saying, Erica. You know, I got to change the way.
Just
you
your
know,
outlook, the way you say
just
things.
like you see me in my PT video, maybe you've seen where I kind of do this negative talk thing at times, right? And
I get it.
you know, it's just, but yes, I mean, I think deep down, I'm not even gonna say I think. Deep down, I see it, but now I just gotta repetitively say it out loud. I will do this. I will do this. I will do this, because I do believe that.
now we're going to take a moment to hear a word from our sponsor, stinkbombodorblocker.com.
I'm so excited because I know I have a new shipment on the way from Stink Bomb Odor Blocker. I hear that she's coming out with new scents, new packs, and there is apparently a new grad pack. So if you have a nursing student in your life, you need to get them one of these. And I know that you are excited about one new scent in particular.
I do. I love anything that's citrus. It's Creamsicle is the set that she's come out with. So it's got the citrus scent and it's also got vanilla. Some of my two favorite smells. So I'm excited to get that in the mail and then we're going to share that with you guys. But you've got to buy one for yourself, buy one for all of your nurse besties. Nurses Week is coming up. Head to stinkbombodorblocker.com and don't forget to use code UNCORKED15 to get 15% off your total purchase. All right, and we are back with Jake. And on to the next question. I have an odd question for you. And I don't know, I feel comfortable enough with you. I'm going to ask it.
Okay.
Do you still have urges to use heroin? Like, has anyone asked you that? Did you crave it still?
I've been asked that. No, I do not whatsoever. I look back at that and I'm like, that's crazy that that's okay. Here's something else that know how people say like it's so bad, like so it's the worst thing you can do. You hear that from like a young age. So when I first did, and again it was a progression. When I did opiates, it wasn't like heroin at first. It was like these, OC80 painkillers, which led. And what I realized was it's like not that like it's for the rep it gets. It's not as crazy as a drug. It's like kind of chill and euphoric, and you're like, oh, it's not like taking LSD where it's like you're in for like a trip, like a ride. It's so, but what actually is so crazy about it is how quickly you are addicted to it and you can't function without it. So, point being, I look back at it and I'm like, I can't believe I was like, it's just like my addiction, everything revolved around it. And it kind of like, to your question, do I crave it? Like, no, it's the opposite. I'm like, I can't believe I got so wrapped up in that. And I mean, I have had a number of like really complex surgeries where they're like, you need to be on some like stuff, some narcotic. I'm like, I really don't want that. And they're like, yeah, well, you need it, and then you gotta come off it. And I've been like prescribed a handful of times since I've been out of the hospital, like, not crazy opiates, but like perk 10s or like perk 5s or like morphine or like whatever. And like, I don't even want it. Like, I might be in pain, but I've just like, there's very little that will help my pain nowadays, and it's certainly not a medicine.
And you described it kind of like, once you're that addicted, it just takes you back to your normal level. Like, it's not like you're like, ooh, I'm, on heroin feeling good. Like, it literally just takes you back to baseline once you've done it that long, correct? Is that?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there were, I was, I would say an hourly user at times. And it was really just to like maintain and function. And then the end of like a day, if I would smoke it for like an hour or 2 hours, I could reach that state of like where I'm like, oh, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling like I'm actually like high and everything. But like, yeah, what I think addicted to nowadays is like definitely work, bettering myself, recovery, and like a good time. And it's just not associated with any substance, really. It's just like the people you're with, the activity you're doing, the I like concerts. I like adrenaline stuff, loud stuff. And it's not about the substance. It's like the people you're with and the fun. So anyway, I look back to these opiates and I'm just like, it like grosses me out. Like,
there's so many pivotal points in people's lives. I think about that day your wisdom teeth hurt, and had that friend not come over with those pills, like, and showed you how you can use it and heat it up. Had that day not happened, would you be where you are today? And it's just crazy how somebody's life can change just from one experience,
Totally. It's
were the wisdom teeth really that painful in comparison, Jake, to what you've gone through?
Yeah, that's no.
Yeah.
I just like hadn't reached that threshold yet in my life. Oh my God. There was also like the internal sadness, I think, that was going on with me, with watching my mother fight an illness and struggling finding sleep and all that. And but you're right, these wisdom teeth is what led to me being willing to try that, and then finding out I liked it. And it's all these choices we all make that can really, choices have consequences. And I heard that in growing up in school and everything, and I brushed it off, kind of like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, sure. But
I can relate to that.
Do.
My wisdom teeth, when I had them out, they gave me Percocet, right? I don't know, maybe 15 or however many they gave you. And I needed it the first few days, I'm not going to lie. But I remember I got to a point on like day 4 that I felt high and energetic from it. And I was painting my kids' nursery. And I knew that day, I'm like, I'm wanting this for a different reason. Like, I'm not really hurting from my wisdom teeth anymore. And I can see how it happens. Like, literally, I could see and I knew, and thank goodness I made that conscious decision. Like, okay, I don't need these anymore. This isn't right. I need to stop. But I never thought of a pain pill as like, it can make you feel high, like energetic. Like, I just, that's what it did for me anyways. I don't know, but I didn't feel like tired anymore. It was making me feel I can do this shit, like, and just bubbly. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but
it makes total sense to me. I was very much like that.
Where do you think you'd be today if you hadn't developed locked-in syndrome?
That's another great question. Well, I guess we never know, but where do I think? I think I'd be in the restaurant industry. I think I would be little. I had a thought back before this all happened to me, working as a head executive chef of a private country club, that I just wanted to do more with my life. And, somebody was like, that I was close with, was like, you do like a great job and it is meaningful. Like, look at all the weddings you cater and you make people happy and all that. And I'm just kind of like, yeah, but like, I just want to do a little more with my life. And I didn't know what that was. Like something meaningful, like a doctor, like helping people, or like, showing real change, right? Beyond like making a real fancy meal for 200 people, right? And anyway, I think to that question you just asked me, and I think I would still be in the industry. Maybe I'd own my own space. I do think I would be a little self-destructive and self-medicating. And I think I'd be 36 now, and I'd be like, damn, I wish I did more with my time here. And frankly, a little bummed out. And, my life, I don't think I've achieved the more that I had always been seeking, but I think I'm on that path to do it. And I think I'm showing some measurable change nowadays with my story, but
yeah, look at what you are achieving.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, what you're doing is huge. Like, I mean, cooking and being a chef is amazing, and maybe you can cook for us one day. We'd gladly come eat some delicious food. But what you're doing is life-changing for people, like people that feel hopeless or feel like there's no hope for them, or they have a horrible diagnosis no matter what it is. Like, I just think that in itself, you've got to tell yourself, is absolutely amazing. Like, you need to be so proud of that.
Well, and to the patients that may be in a locked-in type state, just the change that you're creating by talking about this, so that medical professionals are aware of this, and maybe they don't give up, they don't assume that they're gone, and they engage with them, and they keep testing, or
maybe
pushing,
they haven't looked at it the right way all these years. I mean, have you ever wanted to visit somebody that's locked in, Jake? And or have you?
I haven't, and I do want to. I actually reached out to Mass General about that. And this was like, I mean, you know, with all the COVID stuff and everything, they were kind of like, we haven't fully swung in, or, you know how, like, there'll be people in the hospital that visit with the dog, or, like, to do music. Anyway,
Yeah.
I really
Right.
valued that stuff, and I wanted to do that. And the last time I reached out, they weren't, and I haven't reached out in a while. It's a good reminder. You know, and also I think I'd be a little scared, if that makes sense, because I'm so cognizant of, like, the fact that everyone's different, and, like, I think I beat so much in my own head. I'll be like, I don't know what this person really needs or would want right now, but the one thing I think I would do is just kind of been like, I know what you're going through. Like, don't give up.
That could mean so much to somebody. I mean, I think probably the only way you're going to connect is through social media, honestly, because of HIPAA and all that. You know, the hospitals can't tell you, or, you know, and if they don't have a program in place that does that. But yeah, I think it'd probably be through family members and social media for anybody to ever. Would you agree, Erica? Like, that's probably the best.
Usually it's, like you said, a formal program that they have set up, and this one's a little bit more obscure. But I mean, you talk about doing more, and I don't know if you're aware, but you're not giving yourself enough credit, because you already are doing so much more. In addition to your podcast, which we'll get to, you started your own company called Ahoi, AHOI, and it has to deal with personalized accessibility. You know, I love stories of people that organically create a business to fill a need that they've experienced themselves. So tell us about Ahoi.
Yeah. So Ahoi was, just like you said, born out of lived experience. So I never had to look through that accessibility lens before. And when I was in the hospital, or nursing homes, whatever, all these different care facilities I was in, you know, I didn't really have the ability, and I always had people with me to, like, help me navigate. I was, like, relearning life, so bathrooms were just how they were, and they would help me. But when I got out of the hospital, you know, I survived the impossible, and I'm reconnecting with old friends, family, making new ones. I'm really trying to get back out there, and life is different. I'm also on 24-hour care, and you know, I'm, like, new to a wheelchair, and I just realized the city I grew up in, so, like, hard to navigate in a chair. You got the cobblestones, you got the missing curb cuts, and Apple and Google Map walking directions don't really help for someone who's not walking, who's like rolling, and whether you're using a cane or a walker or a chair or a scooter, like, whatever. And then it was same thing with places, right? So it's like, you know, my dad's like, we're gonna go to this restaurant on Friday. You want to come? It's like reservation for 20. I'm like, you know, it's like 7 days away, and I'm already, like, freaking out with anxiety, because I'm like, all right, I gotta, like, research this place on Google. Okay, it's got the wheelchair icon. Good. Looking on, like, Street View, like, oh, that kind of looks like a bump. Are they gonna have to, like, carry me in? And it was like everything was kind of a mystery, and I realized everything was being chalked up to this ambiguous wheelchair icon that's misused, overused, and doesn't tell you everything you need to know. So I'm, like, thinking about my whole recovery and the people I recovered with, and I'm like, okay, what about the noise? What about the seating? What about the sensory issues I used to have with the lighting? What about the bathroom? What about the configuration of grab bars? So I'm not, with Ahoi, you know, we are a free app. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. It's just a Google Map like experience for finding places that are truly accessible, specific to your needs in that moment or who you're going with. So you make a profile, you say your needs and your wants, break it down into rooms. So it might be like, I'm looking for a roll-in entrance, with low seating tables, with good lighting, with family restroom and an elevator so I can get to all floors. Based on what you indicated in your profile, we'll give you like a rating to how accessible that location is for you or not accessible. And then all that contextual information like photos and user comments, what's there, what's not there. And, not photos of like the decor and the food and the ambiance,
yeah.
but like of the entrance and of the entrance to the bathroom and of the grab bars and what have
These are just little things that people don't think about. But I would say that may inhibit people from wanting to go out and make them kind of become a recluse, because it's like, do I really want to try to challenge that? And then I get stuck and I feel embarrassed, or like, that's got to be hard on people.
Totally.
Yeah.
And going to becoming a recluse. I mean, that was like what was going through my head. And now I'm like, I'm saying no to things that I actually want to say yes to. And then I had to like do this in my head, and I was like, okay, this is not who you are. Like, and like, you've been through so much and you have a lot of life left, and like, you got to get back out there. And I started asking my, outpatient PTs and OTs and SLPs, and I'm like, am I alone? And they're all like, oh, I have so many patients that are struggling with this. And I'm just like, this is like a stupid problem. This is something that the technology we have can absolutely solve for. And like, but it's to your point, no one really thinks about this until it like is relevant to you or someone you love, and then it's like a light switch and you look at things kind of differently. And it's a bigger population than people think about.
Of course it is.
It is. And it's just growing too. Yeah.
It's a need. You're filling a need, and we'll link Ahoi in the description of the podcast for everybody. I wanted to ask another weird question. There's one episode that I'm super looking forward to in your podcast, Blink podcast, and you had some drama behind the scenes and all the other stuff that you had to deal with a wife, ex-wife, with your dad, and at one point you overheard something horrible take place. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. I think I know which horrible thing I overheard. However, I overheard lots of horrible things, and I guess I'll preface it a little bit. Just Blink. It's the tell-all story of what happened to me, and I've been in the media quite a bit, but I've never really told the whole story, and there's been a lot of effort by various parties for me not to tell my story in its entirety. And,
why?
It's a really good question, and that's something that Blink is definitely looking into.
Okay.
But I'm just putting it all out there, and that's what Blink's about. So I did have a wife, and she was both the best and the worst. I'll leave it at that. But she kind of like systematically started disconnecting me from everyone I kind of knew, right? So it started with friends, and the reason for that was, or that she said, was that they were all bad influences. Now, that was not true. I had friends that from all different groups. Some, sure, maybe. But I was in no place to like do drugs anymore anyway. I mean, I made a choice on my own that I wasn't going to live that way. So anyway, she started systematically disconnecting me. Started with friends, then I went to like extended family until it was really just my dad, right? And so to what you're referring to, and we talk about this in the end of episode 2, which is available right now and new on Sunday. It's coming out Sundays. But yeah, I'm definitely locked in and fully aware, can hear everything. And, my dad she made this schedule. Some of my caretakers at this point were my now ex-wife and my dad. And my ex-wife, she made this schedule, right? And I guess my dad was late for his shift according to her schedule, coming from his former place of employment. And so I'm kind of like in this hospital bed, again, positional eye gaze. From behind me, I hear my dad coming up these stairs, and I hear my ex-wife now, kind of berating him. Where the hell have you been? Blah, blah, blah. Like, what are you, drunk? This, that, the other. And he was just kind of like, why are you so mad? Trying to like calm her down. And, it's been a hostile, stressful time for a while now. This was obviously a boiling point. And then I kind of hear, you're strangling me. And I'm just kind of like, hyper spidey sense, trying to like hear the next clue. And then I hear a bottle pop, not a glass bottle, like a 2-liter bottle being hit off someone's head. And then I hear somebody fall down the stairs and boom, 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 crash into the door. And then I hear, like mumbles, and I know it's my dad. And then I just hear crawling out the door and the door pulling shut. And I hear my wife making a 911 call. And she goes, my father-in-law just tried to kill me, tried to strangle me. And that was the last I saw any family ever again. And that's the way we kind of ended episode 2. There's obviously a lot more coming. Obviously, I made it out, and I'm reconnected now with all my family, and I am divorced officially. And so, yeah, there's been effort from a variety of folks for me to never tell this story, and it's all, coming out now.
Well, it happened, and
it certainly happened.
It's part of your story.
I think that's another scary thing that probably no one ever thinks about. If you're in this locked in state, even though at that point you were, able to hear and you were regaining some things, what happens if you're witnessing something, you're privy to something, and you just can't intervene or do anything? Like, that's another level of trauma.
Yeah, it's certainly a scary thought. It was scary living it. Just there's a variety of things. You're like a fly on the wall, and I don't think there's any real answer at this point how we get people in this state, or even let's take it a step beyond, like even nonverbal, getting someone nonverbal to come forward with something, right? They, there's all kinds of crazy shit in the world, things that happen, and people just might not be comfortable non-verbally spelling out something that, they should or want to. So it's gives you a lot to think about. I mean, frankly, I'm having a bit of a panic attack just thinking about it. It's scary.
I'm sure. But at the same time, I bet doing this podcast is going to be very therapeutic for you, telling it, talking about it, and reliving uncomfortable situations. That's part of therapy, I think.
Yeah. I'm also like, what I was just saying I'm having a panic attack about was like not in relation to my story, actually. I'm just like thinking about somebody else who's nonverbal and like, or locked in, or like some state of it that is stuck in this like whatever situation that is just like kind of hoping that they can non-verbally or signal or whatever something that is maybe a crime or like, whatever, is just anxiety provoking by itself. It's like, ugh, it's kind of like,
right. Like I need to tell something and I can't tell it. I can't.
So it's very sad and scary to think about somebody that's stuck like that really wants to get whatever hypothetical thing it is. Can let your imagination think the worst, right? And like not being able to like get that out, or being misunderstood to get that out, or like not believed. There's just like a variety of things that are like,
Right. Yeah. That we would never understand, but you firsthand can understand. So that's totally understandable. I would feel anxious too. So is there a way, do you have a GoFundMe or anything that people can help you? I mean, obviously, you're not able to like work full time currently. I mean, do you still have anything like that?
Yeah, I do have a GoFundMe actually. There's, I'm definitely still rebuilding my life here. So yeah, I definitely have the podcast and Ahoi, but you're right, I can't really work full time. That's why I do these entrepreneurial things and I public speak, but I do have a GoFundMe.
We will link it in the description of the podcast.
Jake, I don't know if you know that Erica is a hospice nurse, and I don't know if Erica knows the story of when you flunked hospice and they came and took your bed and took all your I mean, Erica, does that happen? They just laid him down on pillows.
So when you
that's horrible.
When you are under hospice is responsible for providing everything, the medications, the medical supplies, DME, all of that. And so if you do not meet criteria to be what we call like recertified as a hospice patient, you are essentially no longer covered by hospice, and you would go back to your primary care doctor and do things the traditional way. So yes, unfortunately, the DME and that kind of stuff does have to get picked up and returned. And but they're also not, it's illegal for them to just say, oh, we're cutting you off. Like, you have to have advance notice that's documented and time to supposedly get things in place. But yeah, it can be kind of awful.
Look, Jake has something to say.
So much to say. So first of all, I did not know you were a hospice nurse.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. That must.
I feel like I should apologize for all of it.
I mean, it's just like the hardest. Well, I don't know. Maybe not the hardest thing in the world, but I imagine that weighs on you a lot. Can't be easy. I was somebody who was on hospice and watched people on hospice. I feel like I've had a fair share of hospice now from different views, and in both situations, I always thought about that hospice nurse that was around the most, and how I could never do that job. I know that, but it's obviously needed. Going back to my situation, of hospice. And so, yeah, I know nothing of, I mean, frankly, when I watched my mother in hospice, she didn't get to that 6-month point. She wasn't on home hospice anyway. So I didn't know there was like a window, and what I know now is a lot more than I knew then.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, everything is covered down. You got a new doctor. You got a hospice doctor. He's the one that writes
they take over everything. Yep.
They take over everything. They supply the equipment. So what I know now, too, I was contacted in the last 18 months by an It was quite scary. I get back to my building, and there was a business card from a sheriff that wanted a phone call. And I was like, oh my God, like, it goes back to the first part of the conversation.
They're coming after me for my old charges. They found out I lived.
Having to serve my time, Anyways,
no.
I'm all nervous and I call. And I'm like, hi, I mean, I rarely have anxiety in my voice, but I'm like freaking out. And he's like, don't worry, like, you're not in any trouble or anything. We're investigating a hospice company that you were. So anyway, there was an investigation ongoing. I know that they're no longer in business. Anyway.
One
thing I learned, I guess, is that from maybe you know this. Like, are the hospice people supposed to alert somebody when you're being transitioned off hospice?
Oh, it's absolutely a legal requirement. Yes. Yeah, you're supposed to sign a special form. Yeah, you're supposed to be given notice.
That's why I was like, did your wife get notice? Did she know?
So, it's hard for me to answer. Perhaps she was going through it. She was doing it all on her own for reasons I don't think we'll ever understand. So maybe she was like not checking the mail or answering her phone. Like, I don't know, right? So maybe she was.
I mean, usually this is something like they're going to come out and put this form in front of you and say, explain it, and you have to sign it. Like, it's not a email that you're going to typically, you know,
in spam, and then you're just okay.
Yeah.
Well, I can't answer for, I don't know. Like, maybe that happened, maybe that didn't. All I know is like the supply company, the movers are here to like get stuff, right?
I'm sorry, Jake, that I'm laughing, but
I mean, it's comical in a way. It's like
you being thrown on pillows on the floor is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Well, I just remember her kind of like yelling at the guys, and in my head, I'm thinking like, it's not their fault. Like, they're here to like what are you doing yelling at them? But also, they're like, we gotta get the lift, we gotta get the bed. Where do you want to put him? She's like, I don't fucking know. Like, what are you gonna do? Leave him on the floor? You gonna take the oxygen too? That's really nice. It's really just berating them.
It's like when somebody doesn't pay their rent-a-center bill. Remember
they're going to come get the big screen TV.
When you could rent like the living room set monthly, and then people don't pay.
I forgot about that. Is that still a thing?
Well, my sister was an addict for many years, so she would hide from the rent-a-center.
Oh my God.
That we're coming to take.
We'll have to do a future episode. We've been talking about that, about addiction and Jessica's family and stuff.
Totally, but it's like the same thing. And Rent-A-Center finally comes in, and they're like, "Sorry, it's got to go,
gotta go." But anyway, the whole situation was crazy. The real craziness, well, it's all crazy, but then it was like, no more meds, no more doctor, like no more anything. So it was like, then it was like kind of scramble, and I'm not able to like chip in and do my part whatsoever due to being locked in, but I can just overhear, and that's thankfully, we got in touch with Dr. Levinson, who brought me back to MGH. So it was like, I was like running out of meds. The whole thing is crazy, but then I hear like 18 months ago that's like some investigation into this hospice company. It was
Something was going on. Yeah, that's crazy.
I can't imagine how that feels as the person that's getting a terminal diagnosis. Like, I remember being next to my mom when they told her that she basically had stage 3C ovarian cancer, which was basically almost stage 4. And listening to the oncologist like try to give her some hope, but basically statistically you won't make it past 12 months, you know. And just seeing that blank look on her face is the only way I can describe it. It was like she was hearing what she was hearing, but it was just like disbelief, like, what in the actual fuck did I just hear? Like, how does that feel to hear that, Jake? I can't even imagine hearing that. Like, how, like, your stomach sinks? Like, what?
Yeah, it does. I mean, that's such a good way to explain it. I mean, I always say it's that feeling when you're going down a roller coaster, but is that like stomach sinking,
like flipping almost, like, yeah, like it,
yeah,
your
like
stomach.
turning, and then like there's this like thing that happens simultaneously where it's like you're kind of like vibrating and like shaking, and you're like, did I just hear what I think I just heard? And then you're a million thoughts all at once, and then you're kind of like into this like life review of like, at least for me, yeah, I just saw like little like snippets of my life, like good memories, bad memories, key moments, and then I thought about all the things I planned on doing, um, and like how that wouldn't happen anymore, and just as like sadness. And then
What was one of those things? What was one? I want to know. What was one of those things that you
yeah,
like, skydiving?
it wasn't skydiving. That'd be my sister. She's one of those. For me, I'm like, nah. But you know, it was like,
Maybe accomplishing your own restaurant or your own, you know,
yeah,
like,
it was some of that, and it was a lot. I don't know if, like, because I'm like a relationship guy or something, but there was a lot of like me and my wife, like imagery, like projection of like things we do together, and like it was certainly kids, like me having kids, and you know, it was just like I saw these, I guess, like hypothetical, theoretical moments that you kind of like have in your image of your family elders and your family of like, you know, the 50th birthday party, or like the whatever it might be, like your kids, this event, and then it's like you see this for a glimpse, and that was like your hope, and I actually saw it like visually in my own head, and then it's like, oh, and that's never gonna happen because you were just given a death sentence. And then you go from all that like life review and future things and thought of it not happening, and I went directly to how other people that I care about are feeling. And it was like I was secondary. Like the pain I was feeling, it just like turned into about others that, you know, I care about. And yeah. And then it was like, how did, like, I cause this myself by drug use? I mean, we're looking into that, but it's like, shit, I did this to myself, like, and then that feeling is crazy, and it's like, oh, where did I went really wrong in life? And
you got a second chance, though. You got a second chance to fix it. So
I do.
I know that it's freaking amazing.
Would you like to stay for our end of episode Enema Award of the Week?
Yeah, I kind of do want to witness that. Enema of the Week.
This week's Enema Award is brought to you, as always, by Happy Bum Co., a leader in at-home enema solutions.
Erica, let's talk a minute about our sponsor, Happy Bum Co. You know, as nurses, between shift work, long 12-hour shifts sometimes, a high-stress environment, no time to go to the bathroom, it's no wonder that nurses struggle from constipation, IBS, bloating, and all other sorts of horrible symptoms.
Yeah, absolutely true. And also as nurses, we know how important it is to have a regular bowel regimen and a diverse gut microbiome. And so that's why Happy Bum Co., leader in at-home enema solutions, has been so helpful for so many healthcare workers out there.
Yeah, you can go to happybumco.com and use code Nurses Uncorked, and they're going to give you 15% off your first bundle. So actually, you can give away the award if you want, Jake. If you have somebody in mind that needs a bad enema.
Oh man, a bad enema?
Yeah, a painful bad enema, like just one that it just doesn't go well. That's the kind of enema we're talking about. And you don't have to give it away. We always have a recipient, but I just thought it'd be fun if you have.
I mean, the hospice company deserves.
I think that's fair. Yeah,
absolutely.
What do they call that complex enema when all things fail? Soap and suds or something?
Yeah,
soap suds enema. Yeah.
Let's give the hospice company the name.
Are we naming the hospice company or no?
I would love to, but I'm blanking on the name.
Oh, okay. Well, if you think of it, let us know.
I will give Soap and Suds Enema Award out to Parsons Hill Rehab in
there we go.
Worcester, Massachusetts.
In Worcester.
Worcester. So, they for a number of reasons they deserve this enema.
Gotcha.
It's like, this is a great idea.
Yeah, how many more can we do?
Yeah, I read this in the email, by the way, and I was like, what the hell is going on here? But they just, I don't know. This is one of the darker places I got
Is that the nursing home that you call the nursing home?
I mean, I call a variety of places nursing homes, just cause, but yes, this was one of them. And it's bad when you're being transported by ambulance, and you hear the guy in the back talking to the driver, and they're like, "Where are we taking him?" And he's like, Parsons Hill, and the driver's like, "Oh, Parsons Hill? Oh, boy."
Yeah,
I'm in the gurney, and I'm like, "Oh God, that doesn't sound good."
That's not
Why
good.
does that sound like a cemetery? Parsons
Right?
Hill. Doesn't it? The name of it reminds me of a cemetery.
I mean, yeah, totally, and I think that's places people go there to die.
Is that the place that the food was? You said that your jail food was better than some of the places you've been.
I am not surprised.
No, but it probably they're on the same level. The hospital commissaries need to get some enema awards as well. Except Mass General, they had a great menu.
I think that's
Jake,
fair.
let me get back to you. I'll come up with a whole list.
Well, I think
maybe you should bring me in as a special guest.
We would love to. Believe me. Where can people find you and follow your journey? I know, of course, the podcast. It's called Blink: The Jake Haendel Story. But where else can they find you?
Yeah, so I go by Miracle Man 31 on all social platforms. Miracle is spelled with no E. That's because the username was taken on Reddit.
I know how that is.
But yeah, I'm bigger on Instagram and TikTok for sure, but I am the same name, variety of other platforms.
We'll link all of them in the show notes.
Jake Haendel for regular Facebook. I'm certainly not super hard to get in front of. But Ahoi, Blink the podcast, there are a variety of news articles out there, but social is definitely, I mean, you guys know you're bigger stars than me.
Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. We don't have a story like this.
Thank you so much, Jake, for coming on the podcast.
Did you know that Nurses Uncorked has a patron program? If you're wondering what that is, join the winery. Yes, it's behind the scenes content. You get early releases to our podcast 24 hours before everybody else. You also get bonus episodes every Wednesday that nobody else is going to hear. And you get free Zoom parties with myself and Nurse Erica that nobody else is invited to, and ad-free episodes and so much more. We really could use your support here at Nurses Uncorked. Me and Nurse Erica would love to continue to do this, and any little bit that you're able to give helps us go a long way. It gets us stuff like equipment. It helps us with traveling expenses. It basically helps us just keep things going. So if you've at all ever considered sponsoring the podcast, we would really appreciate it, and we have a lot of fun. Become the wine cork, wine bottle, the vineyard, the reserve. The list goes on and on. Check out all the options. You guys are going to have a blast with us.